Your standards were never unrealistic. They just became inconvenient to keep honoring. You didn't wake up one day and decide to want less. You didn't sit down and say, I'll accept something that doesn't feel good. What happened was quieter than that. You adjusted. You told yourself you were being flexible. You told yourself you were being mature. You told yourself you were being understanding. And at first, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like being reasonable. You know that moment when something doesn't quite meet you. And instead of stopping, you soften your expectations. That's where it starts. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a small internal shift where you say, okay, I can work with this. And you feel it in your body, that little drop in your chest, that tightness in your stomach that you don't name, right? So let's be clear and let's walk through this together. That's not growth. That's lowering your standard slowly enough that it feels justified. Queen, I'm glad you're here. This is where we stop pretending that self-betrayal only happens in big moments. Most of the time it happens quietly, right where no one else can see it. Before we go further, subscribe, not for reassurance, but for alignment, because standards don't hold themselves. They're upheld through remembering again and again and again. Remembering what's true for you. This is Queen's Daily Standard, where we name the small compromises that slowly train you to accept less than you know that you deserve and that you want. In this space, you give me your time, I give you clarity you can actually use. That's our agreement. Lowering the standard didn't start as dishonesty. It started as hope. You believed things could grow. You believed timing might help. You believed that understanding was a form of love. So when something didn't meet you emotionally, energetically, relationally, you didn't leave. You adjusted instead. You told yourself not to be rigid. You told yourself not to expect perfection. You told yourself to see the good in it. And here's the part I want you to hear clearly. You weren't wrong for hoping. What's really happening is that hope became a reason to override your knowing. You can usually feel that exact moment that this happens is when you notice something doesn't feel right. And instead of responding to that information, you start explaining it away, right? Your shoulders tense a little. Your breath gets shallow. Your mind gets busy. That's your body clocking it. Clocking that misalignment while your mind negotiates it. Queen, you weren't asking for too much. You were asking and then abandoning the ask to stay connected. Right? That's the truth. Notice where your body is right now and where it lands. Does it land in your chest, in your stomach, or in your jaw? That's not judgment, that's just recognition. For many women, this pattern didn't come from nowhere. Maybe you grew up in a space where wanting more was framed as being difficult, where expectations were treated like pressure, where harmony mattered more than honesty. So you learned to soften yourself, to accept partial, just a little bit, to want quietly, to call disappointment being understanding. You didn't invent that adaptation, you didn't. But continuing in it, now it has a cost, and you can probably feel it. It feels like a low-grade exhaustion, like constantly adjusting your posture instead of standing naturally, like something in you always being slightly braced. So what does this look like in real life? This usually shows up as You accept inconsistency and call it growth. You tolerate emotional absence and call it independence. You ignore misalignment and call it patience. And you downplay disappointment so you don't seem demanding. You say things like, it's not perfect, but I'm not asking for much. I know no one is perfect. And every time you say that, everything in you gets quieter. Not dramatic, just a little quieter. And over time, what you know becomes softer than what you hope. Right? It does. I want to say this plainly, not harshly, just honestly. Men do not rise to lowered standards. They relax into them. Not because they're bad, not because they're malicious, right? But because standards communicate what's required to stay. When you lower the bar, you're not being kind. You're giving unclear information. A man who is capable of meeting you needs to know where the line actually is. And when you keep adjusting it downward, you don't become easier to love. You become easier to take for granted. If you feel a tightening in your chest hearing that, that's not accusation. That's truth brushing up against something tender. Yeah? All right. Just let that sit. Take a breath here. Your standards are not ultimatums. They're clarity. And clarity is generous. Right? It is. Let's slow this down and be honest with ourselves. You saw the mismatch early. You felt the hesitation. You noticed the places where you were compensating. And instead of responding to that information, you negotiated with it. You told yourself it would change. You told yourself you were being evolved. You told yourself not to overreact. What's really happening is this. You are protecting the connection by betraying your own clarity. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But it does come with a cost. Every time you lower the standard, you teach yourself that your knowing is optional. And awareness is how you stop that lesson midstream. It is. Right? Standards are not punishments, love. Clarity is not rigidity. Wanting more is not wrong. Lowering the standard doesn't protect connection. It postpones the truth. And truth always collects its due. It always shows up. Let's make this practical. Gently, not dramatically, today, notice where you're being flexible instead of being honest. Stop explaining why something that doesn't work should work. Name one standard you've been negotiating just to yourself. And pay attention to your body when you do. The breath deepens, the chest softens, the bracing eases, because the woman you're becoming no longer adjusts her standards to be chosen. She chooses herself and lets alignment follow. She does. She does. After this, you might notice something uncomfortable. When you stop lowering the standard, there's often a pause, a space where nothing rushes in to replace what you've been tolerating. Next, we're going to talk about waiting for clarity, that moment where you know something needs to change, but you stay anyway, hoping time will decide for you. If that pause feels unsettling, that's normal. We'll walk through it together as usual. All right? So yes, tomorrow's message is definitely important. If this named where you've been quietly settling, subscribe now and stay tuned in to your standard. You don't need less, you need truth. you're willing to stand on, right? So as always, stay blessed and stay crowned. I'll talk to you soon.